So we have a brand new bill that we kind of briefly talked about in the past, but the biggest difference that in today's update, we officially now have some written text and details that comes directly from the politician/Congress's website to really talk about. So hey everyone, how's it going today? And welcome back to another update. So the big thing that I really want to share in today's update is that there is a program that is currently floating around and being proposed. So admittedly, this is a proposed program in order to try to create a monthly stimulus check program that's going to total and add up to somewhere between $3,000 to $4,000 depending on your particular demographic. I will admit, as a very huge heads up, is that the majority of the stuff that we are going to be talking about are programs that are going to be applying mainly to families, so people that have kids. However, with that being said, because we do try to be as inclusive as we possibly can, and again, I totally feel it there because I don't have kids. I know a lot of people my age. I know a lot of people that are teenagers that have kids. But because of that reason, we probably will talk a little bit about what this actually means for single individuals. So hopefully a little bit of everything. But again, just huge notice is that it's going to be mostly for families. And I think it's just relatively insightful if you're just interested in knowing what's been going around in the world of just stimulus checks, Congress, and social programs and everything meant to put money in our pockets, especially during a time of relative need, if that is something of hopefully some interest out there. So as always, we are going to get started, but as always, real fast, before we begin, remember to smash the like button if you guys hopefully enjoy videos like this. Consider subscribing and hitting the bell, or you guys can watch to the end if you guys want to decide. But it is always greatly appreciated. And as always, feel free to comment any questions, maybe personal thoughts about what you think about this bill by the very end of this video. So with that being said, let's get this video started right on the spot. So the maybe start is that I really want to talk about this brand new bill that recently, it technically came out about 2 weeks ago, but I know in one of the past updates we just gave a very surface answer about what this bill is and how much money it provides. But in today's update, I really just want to dive deep to the really specific details about this bill, the amount, who it applies for, what else is inside of this bill beyond just typical stimulus programs. But essentially is that the first bill that we're really going to talk about is pretty much a bill that was proposed by Mitt Romney called the Family Security Act 2.0. And how this particular bill works is that it's going to be trying to provide a $350 monthly stimulus check for people that have children 5 and under, or for children or people that have children between 6 to 17 will be able to receive a $250 monthly stimulus check. So when you multiply that in total, 350 times 12 happens to be $4,200 or $4,200. So if you happen to have a child, by the very end of this program, if your child is 5 or under, they're going to be able to give you $4,200. And if you have a child between 6 to 17, you'll be able to in total receive 250 times 12, which is basically a $3,000 fourth stimulus check. Of course, for the sake of this video, we're probably going to just go with the humble amount to say that you're able to pretty much receive at least a minimum of $3,000 and potentially even up to $4,200 if this particularly applies to you. Now, there are some requirements that we haven't really talked about in the last couple of videos, so I really want to specify about how you actually, or what you need to actually be able to physically get onto this program. So, in order to get onto this program, the biggest is that there's an income requirement where you have to have earned $10,000 as a family. So, as in, the two couples together, you're going to have earned $10,000 or more collectively during your previous year tax season. And how this is going to particularly work is that if you don't, or if you did not make $10,000 or over, is that as long as you had some level of income, they're going to essentially adjust that income to the amount of money that you'll be able to receive. So what does this mean exactly is that if you make, so for example, like for the $3,000 stimulus grant package for kids, if you are someone that was able to make last year $10,000 or more, you'll be able to get and receive the entire $3,000 child tax credit grant. If, however, let's say, for example, you only made $5,000 last year, because $5,000 happens to be half of $10,000, in this case, you'll also be able to have that amount of money adjusted relative to the dollar amount. So in this case, for simplicity, essentially, if you made $5,000, because that's half of $10,000, when it comes to the fourth stimulus program, you'll still be able to receive money, but you'll receive $1,500 instead of $3,000, because $1,500 happens to be half of $3,000. Now, there is one actually very, very interesting part of this program that we didn't really talk as much about, which is really about the fact that there is actually a specific part of this program that is trying to essentially encourage people to have children. So what does this exactly mean is that there's a part of this program that the way this works is that if you are someone that is currently pregnant, or you know someone that's currently pregnant, or you're married to someone, or maybe you are the guy, or just someone that's essentially pregnant, what this program is that it's a program that you do have to apply for. But if you were to apply for it, what it's going to do is now essentially send you a $700 stimulus check every single month for 4 months up until you give birth, or until the child actually physically pops out. So what this does is that essentially it's a way to really be able to encourage people to have children. So if you are someone that's expecting a child relatively soon, what this does is that you'll be able to receive a $700 stimulus check every single month for 4 months, and in total, until you give birth, you'll be able to essentially collect 700 times 4, which is basically a $2,800 stimulus check. And then when that actual child physically comes out, now you'll be able to actually receive the full child tax credit, which is basically going to be the $4,200 stimulus check that was just mentioned before. So essentially the way this works is that if you're someone that's about to have a child, they will physically, under this program, be giving you or paying you $2,800 to have children, per child too. So if you happen to have more than one child, you'll be able to get that amount of money times the number of kids you have. And I believe that they specifically capped it at about 6 kids. So if you are someone that just really were ambitious, now granted, it's very expensive to raise 6 kids in this particular country in this particular time period. But if you really wanted to and had 6 kids, what this means is that you'll essentially be able to receive 6 different stimulus checks, one depending on the age, the demographic of that particular child. So that is definitely a lot of money to definitely look potentially into. Of course, again, this is a proposal, but if this was, say, to be able to physically go through. Now, there is one not so good news about this program that I think is really, really important to mention, and we didn't really discuss as much about it, is that because this program does happen to be an income requirement, it does mean, though, that in order to be able to get onto this, you are someone that is going to have to be currently employed. So that is just a really, really huge note about it, which is very, very interesting. And it's going to go into something that we're going to talk about maybe that might apply to some single individuals, or specifically the significance of this in a little bit. But the big idea is that one of the reasons why they're currently doing this is that one of the not so good news parts that's going to be inside of this bill is that they're also going to be doing an adjustment to the earned income tax credit. You might have heard about this program, but essentially this is actually a program that applied to even single individuals, where the idea is that when you complete your taxes, you can actually apply or put into the actual tax document yourself something in order to try to receive the earned income tax credit, otherwise known as the EITC. And how that is going to work is that it's going to be able to provide an extra tax credit for people when they do their taxes. So essentially, if you are someone that has to pay taxes, then you now get to pay less taxes. And if you're someone that already paid your taxes and is expecting a refund, you'll be able to get extra money. And I believe is that the dollar amount for the original, the approved the current earned income tax credit is about like $1,000 to $2,000 to $3,000 estimated for what most people would receive if they are owed some kind of tax refund. However, one thing about this particular program that might not necessarily be a good thing is that because they will be trying to extend and provide a lot of child tax credit programs, they are admittedly going to be reducing the earned income tax credit amount of money. So why this might not be necessarily particularly great news also for some people is that because if you are someone that currently is not employed, even if you actually have kids, but if you're someone that actually is not employed, because you might not have a lot of income to show for, it does mean that under this particular program, you would not be able to receive the entire $3,000 to $4,200 to even the $2,800 for giving birth gift that they're going to give you. So essentially, it's almost like a welcome newborn child package kind of story. It does mean that you would not be able to receive the full amount of money through this particular program. And because they're also going to be reducing the earned income tax credit, it also means that you would be receiving a lot less money from that as well. So essentially what this really means, and I guess this goes on to maybe the significance of that's really, really important to mention about how this is going to even apply to single individuals, is that because the really, really great news is that now that we do have this program on the table, what it does mean is that we're starting to see a lot of voice come out from the GOP Republicans, which objectively, again, regardless of political party, it's very well known that they happen to be the group that was very opposed to a lot of the social programs. So because you are starting to kind of see this happen, it does mean that the really, really great news is that now you start to see some GOP Republicans actually support more stimulus programs. However, the approach is going to be relatively different because when it comes to a lot of the Democratic programs, it's a little bit of an interesting shift because a lot of the Democratic programs, they're really meant to help particularly poor people. So that's the reason why a lot of their programs, you might have noticed how they kind of have a system where there's like an income cap, and if you make above that income, you'll start to collect less money. So essentially it's to try to balance the wealth gap so that the people that truly need it are able to receive more money, but then the people that maybe don't necessarily need it won't be able to receive as much money, but again, because they don't necessarily particularly need it. So essentially what this does is that it's a way to give people money that they really need, money, and then however take away money so that the more money you make, the less money you'll also receive from the government. On this new program that we're talking about in today's update, so under the Family Securities Act, what it is that it's a little bit of the reverse now, where they actually want to encourage people to make more money. So essentially, if you are someone that is actually making less money, you actually would be receiving less money through this particular program. Whereas if you are someone that is actually making more money from your regular job, again, because keep in mind you have to be employed, through this program, you're now going to actually essentially be able to receive even more money. The biggest difference is really about the goal. The Democratic programs are trying to help people that really need it, whereas the Republican program that we're talking about in today's video is really to encourage people to actually find work so that they can receive even more money, essentially to incentivize people to work towards it. So hopefully this kind of clarifies one of the biggest differences. So why this is really related is that because we are starting to see a massive shift or starting to see a support and push to do social programs, what this essentially means is that the hope is that they can now potentially try to create programs to help single individuals as well. And again, especially because the earned income tax credit, that's kind of a small part of this bill, is also a program that applies to both singles and married couples. And the really, really important note about how this is going to impact things, whether this is good or not, kind of depends on the specific person, is that if they were to start to create some kind of program to help single individuals, the belief is that that program is probably going to not have necessarily even an income cap, but an income requirement in order to try to encourage people to go back to work. Essentially what this means is that most of the programs that they're probably going to create going forward, whether this is for couples or whether this is for singles, is going to involve some kind of clause to get people to actually go back or to continue working and making a particular amount of money. And I think that's probably the particularly important thing that's really important to share in today's update. But really beyond this is that that's pretty much what I really just wanted to share in today's update. So hopefully you guys got a really detailed breakdown about this build. If you guys hopefully found that insightful, maybe consider smashing the like button and subscribing if you guys haven't done so, as we get more information. Of course, again, you guys can decide. And as always, feel free to comment any questions, maybe personal thoughts about this program, or honestly just really anything at all. So that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. As always, stay safe, stay well, and sending best wishes and hope to see you guys next time. Thank you guys so much again.